Hey guys, welcome to Terrier Talk. This week we are talking about barking at the TV. This is another one a question that's come through a couple of times on social media now. So if you have questions that you like, little one-off kind of issues that pop up that you have with your terriers, then do pop me through on social media. Once I've got a couple of people that have asked a similar question, I'll pop a piece of content together for it, whether that's like a social media reel or a podcast like this if it needs a little bit more of an explanation. Right, so barking at the TV. I'm gonna sort of assume that this is quite often, like wildlife programs or programs where there's a lot of movement on the screen. Now you're going to take the same approach to this problem as you would do with pretty much any dog training problem, okay? And that is that you start with a level of management, okay? And this is another one of those kind of like choose your hard situations, okay? Because dealing with this or sorting it out is going to be a pain in the backside. I'm not going to lie to you, because you're going to have to do a lot of management and you're going to have to do some training. And really what you want to do is sit and watch TV of an evening. And so it's a choose your hard situation. Do you want to spend a week to 2 weeks dealing with this problem so that you don't have the barking at the TV for the next 15 years of your life? Then that's what you're going to have to do, essentially. So you're going to put management in place, right, to stop this problem from getting any worse, which is the first thing you do with any dog training issue. So your management with the TV is not allowing the dog to have access to that TV and bark at it with the things that they would bark at, okay? So if, for example, it is like a high-speed sports thing where there's a ball dashing around on the TV and stuff and they're watching that, or if it's a nature documentary that they want, they like to bark at the birds or something, then you are not going to give the dog access to those TV things. So you're either going to stop watching them yourself for a period of time, or you are going to remove the dog from the room when you are watching it, okay? Because any problem that they have is only going to get worse if they continue to repeat doing it, okay? Same for any dog training problem. First thing I'm going to do is put management in place to solve that, yeah? Okay, so once I've done that, I've now removed my dog from the situation. If it's a certain type of program, I'm not putting that type of program on when they're in the room. If it's all TV programs, then we might need to not watch the TV for a little bit when they're in the room, or we need to make sure that we've got them out of the way when we are watching our TV, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach my dog a very strong marker word, okay? There's a whole course on markers, a little mini course available if you want to get that, but I will explain it now as well. So you are basically going to associate a word, and a lot of people might do this with a clicker as well, with a reward, right? So in this case, it's going to be just like kind of going to be a food reward. And what you're going to do is you're going to know what it is that triggers your dog. So, for example, it is, I was going to use it's a wildlife program. And then once your dog has had a period of rest away from it, I would suggest you go for as long as you can stomach. So if it's a week to 2 weeks or whatever, that dog hasn't had access to it, so that habit has faded down a little bit. You're then going to bring your dog back in with their new marker word. So when they hear this word or this click or whatever, they go, oh, I'm going to get something for that. And you're going to re-expose them to, let's say, for example, the bird on the TV that they would pay interest to and bark. And just because you can control your TV, right? You're going to find a program where it's on. You've got a streaming service with something, and you're going to put that thing on the television. And just as they're about to bark at the thing, so if I were you, I would set yourself up with a program that they have, that you've watched and you know what's coming. Okay, so it's just about to come, and literally before that bark happens, so you should be able to read your dog and watch them. They'll be like, oh, here's the thing that's about to make me bark. I'm just about to see this squirrel go darting across the TV or whatever it is. You're going to step in with your marker word and you're going to say it or use your clicker and you're going to feed. Okay? Now, the key to this is you need to do it before they bark. Okay? And this is why, in a way, like doing it with the TV is like a really cool way to do it, because you can control what's about to come across the TV, yeah, with your fast forward and rewind, flick it forward and back 10 seconds, and you know what programs you can bring up and so on and so on. So you can literally sit there with your TV, you know what's coming in the next 10 seconds, and literally as it comes up, before they bark, you've built this strong marker word away from the thing, you mark and reward. Okay, so we start to change our dog's attitude from I'm going to bark at this thing to when this thing comes up or is about to come up, mum hits the button or the clicker or the marker word or whatever it is, says it, and I get a treat. Okay, and you're going to just slowly repeat that over sessions, over a day or two, until the dog, instead of barking at it, goes, oh, and looks at you when that trigger appears. Okay? Yeah? So instead of it becoming a trigger for barking, it becomes a trigger for them to look at you. Now, the pain in the arse part about this is essentially all the management that you need to do in the meantime. Because if you do that training, and at the same time you also have open access to the TV, and they can bark at it all of the time, and you end up in a situation where you're like, okay, sometimes they bark, sometimes they don't, you'll end up at kind of a ground zero, right? What you need to do is get rid of all of the barking and do very short controlled sessions where you're in charge of that forward and back 10 seconds button and just starting to desensitize them, or, like get them to have a different response to the telly. So that is what you are going to do. Then you're going to continue to reinforce that for a period of time. And eventually what you will do is you'll just fade that out, okay? So you might leave it ever so slightly longer to feed them, so they see the thing coming on the TV, and at this point you've had enough reps where they will go, oh, there's the squirrel darting across the TV, I'll look at mum, I get a treat. Okay? And so you will gradually start to fade that. So you might only give them a treat every other time that they do it, or every kind of third or fourth time, and then you fade and you fade and you fade until the barking's gone and the treat's gone. Yeah? It's a bit of a pain in the arse of a thing to have to do. But if you don't want your dog to bark for the next, 10 years at the television, then that is, I think, one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it. The other way to do it, and you could try, is just tell them not to do it. Use a stern word, and when they bark, tell them, oi, knock it off, and see if that works. I think sometimes a lot of people just forget that they can actually say, oi, knock it off. The trouble is, with a lot of terriers, they'll just take that as a bit of a challenge. Bless them. You'll say, or they'll see it as you joining in, right? So they're barking at the thing, and then they'll just go, yeah. It's always a case of timing, and that's where the majority of you will be going wrong. It's a timing thing. So just to quickly recap, you're going to manage like you do with any dog training problem. You are going to then teach a very strong marker word or clicker away from your situation. So that they hear that word or they hear that clicker, and the first thing they do is whip around and to get their reward from you. Then you're going to reintroduce your triggers. The telly's great because you've got full control of it. You can find a program that they would likely to bark at. You can use your forward and back 10 seconds buttons. You know what's coming. You wait for it to come, and that second before they bark at it, you step in with your mark and reward. And we change the dog's attitude from, oh, I see the thing on the TV, I bark to it, to I see the thing and I get a treat or a reward from them. You repeat that over multiple sessions, and then you gradually fade out that reward. So you start not quite rewarding every single one, and then you fade and you fade and you fade until the point at which the dog's just not that bothered about what's on the telly. That's the plan. Just remember that your dog's enjoying barking at the telly, okay? They're having a nice time. So they're having fun being a terrier for the most part. I mean, there might be one or two of you out there that've got very anxious dogs, but it's unlikely. It's much more likely that they're just enjoying barking at the telly. So if you don't manage it, it will carry on, yeah? Or if you do sort of 50% training and then 50% of the time you let them bark at the telly, it will carry on. You'll just end up at status quo. You absolutely must manage it and bring it back in controlled situations. Otherwise, I promise you, it won't work. So that's it. That's my best suggestion for barking at the TV. I hope it helps a little bit. I know that's a bit of a pain in the arse of a bit of training you've got to go and do. But like a lot of things with dog training, it's a choose your hard situation. Which one would you rather do? A week or two's worth of training where you manage everything and sort it all out, or have your dog bark at the TV for the next 10 years? I know which one I'd choose. So I hope that helps, because I said there's quite a few of you popped that question through. It's not, to be honest, it's not a problem I have with either of my two. So when it came up, I was like, oh, that's an unusual one. But then it's come up multiple times, so it must be something quite a few people struggle with. So I hope that helps. And as I said again, if you have questions and stuff that you would like answered, single one-off bits and bobs, please do drop me a message, because I want to create the content ultimately that helps you guys, so I'll happily make reels or podcasts. If I can fit it in a 3-minute social media reel, I will do. If I can't, then I'll do a slightly longer chat over a podcast like this. So, and that's where the majority of my stuff comes from. It just comes from questions that you guys want answering. So don't be afraid to ask. Pop me a question through and I will do my best to answer for you. And I will see you on the next podcast.